Hi, I'm Pastor Juan and welcome to my man cave. In this video, I will teach you 3 leadership qualities that God saw in Moses. If you're interested in this topic or any other topic, please subscribe to the channel. Everyone is a leader one way or the other, and everybody wants to be the best possible leader there is. There are many different leadership styles, but I will introduce you a godly leadership style that will impact many for an entire lifetime. The story of Moses really begins with a new Pharaoh who comes along and doesn't know the story of Joseph and doesn't know the history of the Hebrews. You see that the Hebrews were culturally different. Even though they had been there for many generations, actually, they really didn't fit in among the other Egyptians because of their culture and their religion. The new Pharaoh felt threatened and he thought that they could overthrow him at any moment. So he decided to make the Hebrews slaves. Actually, at one point, the Pharaoh decided to kill all the male children to reduce the population. Moses was spared because his mother had put him in a little basket on the Nile River. So when Pharaoh's daughter saw Moses, her heart broke and she said, "Oh, this is one of those Egyptian children." And she saw Moses and she loved him. And she adopted him as her own. Moses was an enigma. Although he was born a Hebrew, he was raised as an Egyptian. He ate at Pharaoh's table while his people were in slavery. It must have been hard and very difficult for him to accept it because he loved his paternal people. He identified with being a Hebrew. Since Moses was torn between the two cultures, this shaped the way that he led. Let's read Exodus chapter 2, verse 11 through 19. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw 2 Hebrews fighting and asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who are you, ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." And when Pharaoh heard this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill their troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He drew water for us and he watered the flock." Now, number 1, the first leadership quality of Moses was his sense of justice. Moses didn't do right in his own eyes, but he did right in the eyes of God. In order to do this, you're going to have to know God's word, because in the Bible, it guides us, it teaches us, it shows us the character and nature of God. If God's principles are your principles, well, there's no stopping you. You're guaranteed success. Remember that Moses constantly talked to God to have the right relationship with the Lord, and just not with the Lord, with other people. Luke 6:31. Do unto others as you wish others would do unto you. That is the golden rule. This is a guide for us not to be cruel or foolish with other people. In other words, simply put yourself in their place. Talk to them the way that you want to be talked to. Treat them the way that you want to be treated. It's simple. We all have a different background that makes us very unique. And a great leader respects this and knows this. But it's not a weakness, it's a strength. Because some people have natural gifts. Some people are better in one thing and other people are better than the other. As a leader, if you're going to make rules, even you have to live by them. People will see you and they're going to respect you as being someone of integrity. And that goes a long way, because what we're dealing with in any type of relationship is trust. And when your subordinates cannot trust you, they're not going to work well with you. Be merciful and be a forgiving person. Don't hold any grudges. This is a quality not only of a good leader, but as a mature person. Because a mature person isn't childish and petty. Remember, if you're a leader, you're in a position of authority and people look up to you. The second quality that Moses had was that he was able to see the needs of other people, yet put his own needs to the side. Now, earlier we read 3 verses that Moses intervened into situations, and these situations possibly could have, and they actually did, have negative consequences for him. In other words, when Moses intervened on behalf of the Egyptian and the Hebrew, because the Egyptian was mistreating him, beating him, possibly could have killed him, Moses stepped in to stop the fight, but wind up killing the Egyptian. Now, that's a death penalty. He could have lost everything at that moment. He didn't care. He had to do something. He had to act. So we have him intervening on behalf of the Hebrew, right? That was the first incident. The second incident, this was back to back. The second incident, he intervened between 2 Hebrews. He saw another Hebrew almost killing his fellow brother. Moses stopped them. And then the aggressor told Moses, "You're not my boss. We know what you did. Everybody knows." And when Pharaoh found out, Moses had to run for his life. So when he crosses the desert from Egypt to Saudi Arabia, when he arrives into the land of Saudi Arabia, he sees some women being mistreated by another tribe. These women were trying to water their animals, and these men were preventing them and taking the water for themselves. Now, Moses, being the person that he is, being the man that he is, and being that leader that he is, he couldn't sit by the sidelines and watch it happen. Moses had to intervene. A leader intervenes. Moses fought off the men. Not only did he fight them off, but he gave water to all of their animals. This reminds me of a story that I have when I was a freshman in high school. You know how the bell rings and everyone leaves class going from one class to another? There's a lot of students walking back and forth. There was this one student who had seizures, and she had dropped right there in front of me. And a big crowd came, but not to help her, just to watch her, to gawk. And then some people even laughed. But there was this one student. This is a true leadership moment. This one student came and was upset, even pushing some people out of the way to get to her. And he told me, "Hey, help her up," because I was one of those bystanders. So I helped him with her, and he carried her, he walked her over to the nurse's office. And that really impressed me, and it gave me a conviction to just not stand there while other people were helpless, that I had the power to do something. And we all can. We can all act. If we see the need of another person, and if we realize that if in our own situation, if that was us, we would want help, well then our duty is to help them. That is the golden rule. Now, the third quality of Moses is he never led in an adverse way. In other words, he led like a shepherd. Actually, Moses was a shepherd for 40 years before he came to lead Israel out of Egypt. He's the type of person that would leave the 99 to go get the one. Moses, even though that he was betrayed and stabbed in the back and people complained about him, and even at one time his own people, the Israelites, wanted to stone him, complaint after complaint after complaint, Moses still interceded for them. I'm going to give you an example. There's this time where his sister and his brother, they were unhappy with his leadership and they decided to take over. Well, God was furious and decided to punish his sister with leprosy. Well, what Moses do? He didn't stand by and say, yeah, God, teach her a lesson. She shouldn't try to betray me and stab me in the back. After all, we're family. No, what Moses did was he interceded for her and cried and told God, please don't give her leprosy. Then she can never be part of the community again. Right? And God says, well, I have to do something. I'll give her leprosy for 7 days. That'll make her humble. So there it was. 7 days later, she was allowed to come back. But you see, Moses is the type of person that he'd intervene. See, a godly leader doesn't bark orders or orders people around. What he does is he shows, teaches, or shepherds the people to his vision. He teaches them his vision so they would understand. He gets to know them. It's a relationship. That's how a godly leader leads. A godly leader cares for his people the same way a shepherd cares for his flock. A weak leader, a worldly leader, will use people to get what he wants. But not Moses. Moses is an encourager. He teaches them everything that he knows. As a matter of fact, whatever God told him, he had it written down. That's what we call the 5 books of Moses. See, Moses didn't keep whatever knowledge he had a secret because he was jealous of other people. No, what he did was he shared it, and because he wanted other people to be leaders. The leadership style of Moses works all the time. As a matter of fact, what you could do is you could start now as your homework. You can start this Moses style leadership in your own family. Teach everyone in your family about God, God's principles, coach them, encourage them, and your home life is going to be a success. I guarantee you, trust God, try God. At one point in our life that we're going to be leaders. So what you want is to be a success right out of the gate. And God is going to bless you. Thank you, and God bless.